Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Axello Balya Putra, and right now I want to interpreting this video from YouTube.
Syntax is a law of language that determines the word order and basic
Sintaksis adalah
sentence
aturan bahasa
structure
yang
within
menentukan
the
urutan
different
kata dan
languages.
struktur kalimat dasar
Each
dalam
language
beberapa
has a
bahasa.
specific
Setiap
syntax
bahasa
that tells
memiliki
the
sintaksis
speaker
khusus
and
yang
the
memberitahu
listener
penutur dan
which
pendengar
parts of the
bagian
sentence
mana
come
dari
first
kalimat yang
to
harus
help
disebutkan
them
terlebih
make
dahulu.
sense of what's being
Guna apa
said.
yang sedang disampaikan.
It's the guidelines we use when speaking and writing so that sentences are
Merupakan
understandable
pedoman yang
and
kita gunakan saat
coherent.
berbicara dan menulis agar mudah dipahami.
Be wary of confusing
Hati-hati
syntax
agar
or
tidak
semantics
mengacaukan
with
sintaksis
diction.
atau
These
semantik dalam
form the
diksi.
backbone of sentence
Ketiganya merupakan tulang
construction,
punggung
so
penyusunan kalimat.
let's break
Jadi,
these definitions
mari
down.
kita uraikan
Syntax,
definisi-definisi ini.
as just mentioned, is
Sintaksi,
the order
seperti
of the
yang baru
words
saja
in a
disebutkan,
sentence.
adalah urutan kata-kata
Diction is
dalam
the
sebuah
specific
kalimat.
word choice meant
Diksi
to
adalah
express
pemilihan kata
certain
tertentu yang
meanings.
dimaksudkan untuk
Semantics
mengekspresikan
is
makna
the meaning
tertentu.
conveyed by the
Diksi adalah
particular words
pemilihan kata
used.
tertentu yang dimaksudkan untuk
We'll be focusing on syntax in
Dalam
this
video ini
video.
kita akan
In the
berfokus
English
pada
language, there's a
sintaksis.
word order that is set in stone for
Dalam
most
bahasa
types
Inggris,
of sentences. Of course, there are always exceptions, but most of the time, standard English sentences will follow
yang
an
sudah baku untuk sebagian
SVO
besar,
word order. Subject,
yang kan
verb,
mengikuti ikutan kata
object.
SVO,
As in,
objek,
the
kata
boy
kerja, dan
looks
objek.
outside of the
Seperti
window.
pada
In
anak
this
laki-laki
example
itu
sentence, we
melihat keluar
have the
jendela.
subject,
Dalam contoh
boy,
kalimat
the
ini,
verb,
kita memiliki
looks,
subjek
and the
anak laki-laki.
object,
Kata kerjanya
outside.
adalah
This
melihat,
image is an
dan
image of an
objeknya adalah
English
keluar.
grammar
Gambar
syntax
ini
tree
menunjukkan pohon
used by
sintaksis tata
linguists
bahasa
to
Inggris yang
plot the
digunakan
structure of
oleh ahli
sentences.
bahasa untuk
You
memetakan
may not
struktur
often
kalimat.
encounter a syntax tree,
Anda
but
mungkin
knowing
tidak
how
sering
to
menjumpai
draw
pohon
one
sintaksis,
is
tetapi
rather
mengetahui cara
useful and will
menggambarnya
help you
cukup berguna
understand
dan
the
akan
sentence
membantu
structure.
Anda memahami struktur
In the
kalimat.
chart, you can see that the
Pada bagian
sentence is
tersebut, Anda
broken
dapat
down
melihat
into its
bahwa kalimat
parts,
tersebut
verbs, nouns,
diuraikan menjadi
articles, and
bagian-bagiannya, kata
prepositions.
kerja, kata benda, kata
After
sandang,
this
dan kata
step,
depan.
the words are
Setelah
grouped
langkah ini,
together to
kata-kata
determine
tersebut
which parts
dikelompokkan
of the
untuk
sentence
menentukan
are
bagian mana
noun
dari kalimat
phrases,
yang merupakan
prepositional phrases,
kata-kata
or
benda,
verb
kata
phrases.
depan,
Fun
atau
fact,
kata kerja.
SVO is not the only word order
Fakta menarik adalah
structure.
SVO bukanlah satu
Other
struktur
languages
urutan
vary
kata.
word order and
Bahasa
even
lain memiliki
include
urutan kata
additional
yang bervariasi
components
dan
in their
bahkan
syntax.
menyertakan
In the
komponen
example
tambahan dalam
given with the
sintaksinya.
syntax
Dalam
tree,
contoh yang
the
disertakan pada
subject
pohon
is
sintaksis,
cat, the
subjeknya
verb
adalah
is
cat,
sat, and the
kucing,
object is
ada
mat.
sat,
The
dan
second
objeknya
picture
adalah
is
mat.
another way in which
Gambar kedua
syntax
ini
can be
menunjukkan
written
cara
out.
lain
This
dalam menuliskan
diagram takes the
sintaksis.
sentence, the
Diagram ini
dog loved
mengambil
the
kalimat
girl,
the dog
and
loved the girl
breaks it
dan
down into
menguraikannya
articles,
menjadi artikel.
nouns, verbs, noun phrases,
Kata
and
benda,
verb
kata
phrases,
kerja,
just
prasa
like
kata
the
benda, dan
previous
prasa kata
example.
kerja.
In this sentence, the subject is dog, the verb
Dalam
is
kalimat ini,
loved,
subjeknya adalah
and
dog,
the
kata
object
kerjanya
is
adalah love, dan
girl.
objeknya adalah
Again, the
girl.
syntax trees are
Sekali
not
lagi,
to be
pohon sintaksis ini
intimidating,
tidak
but are
dimaksudkan untuk
used to better
menakut-nakuti, melainkan
understand the
digunakan untuk
structure
lebih
of a
memahami
sentence
struktur
and to reveal
sebuah
each
kalimat
part's
dan
purpose within the
mengungkap
sentence.
fungsi masing-masing bagian di
An
dalamnya.
additional use for syntax trees is that whenever a different word order is used for a sentence, it can be decoded. For example, if you are hearing a sentence in a foreign language
Sebagai
that
contoh,
follows a
kalimat tersebut dapat
VSO
diterjemahkan
order
dengan
or some
memetakan
other
strukturnya seperti
variation,
contoh di atas.
creating a syntax tree for that sentence can help you to put the
Dan
words
dapat
in
memahami apa yang
SVO
sedang
order
dikatakan.
so that you might understand what's being said. Let's have a recap.
Mari kita
1.
ulas kembali.
Syntax is the sentence
Sintaksis adalah
structure.
struktur kalimat.
2. Diction is
Nomor
the
2,
choosing of
diksi
words
adalah
to relate a certain
pemilihan
meaning.
kata untuk
3.
menyampaikan makna
Semantics
tertentu.
is the
3
meaning that is
adalah
expressed from
makna
the
yang
words
diungkapkan melalui
used.
kata-kata yang digunakan.
4. Syntax trees
4.
are a neat
Pohon
graphing
sintaksis
tool to
adalah
chart
alat
sentence
grafis yang
structure
berguna
and
untuk
make
menetapkan
sense of
struktur
word order
kalimat serta
and
memahami
how
urutan
it's
kata dan
functioning in the
cara
world of English. Thanks for
Jadi
joining
dalam
us
bahasa
for this
Terima
syntax
kasih telah
tutorial.
bergabung
If
dengan
you found this
durasi
video
kali
to be
ini.
helpful,
Jika
check
Anda
out the
merasa
rest of
video
our
ini
channel
bermanfaat,
for
silakan
additional
lihat
help.
video lain di
See you guys
saluran
next
kami
time.
untuk bantuan lebih lanjut. Sampai jumpa di video berikutnya. So this is the next video, the second video that I want to interpret from YouTube. So let's get started.
What is a nation?
Apa itu bangsa?
The attempt to formally define the nation
Upaya untuk
as a political
mendefinisikan secara
concept dates
formal
back to
bangsa sebagai konsep
1882 when
politik
French
bermula pada tahun
philosopher and
1882.
historian Ernest
Ketika
Renard
filsuf dan
published his
sejarawan
seminal
Prancis Ernest Renard menerbitkan esai
essay titled What is a Nation?
pentingnya yang berjudul Apa itu Bangsa?
In this essay,
Dalam
Renard
esai ini,
defines the nation
Reynolds
as a
mendefinisikan
large-scale
bangsa sebagai
solidarity
solidaritas berskala besar
constituted by the feeling of
yang terbentuk
sacrifices
dari rasa
that one
pengorbanan
made in
yang
the
telah
past
dilakukan
and
di masa
of
lalu dan
those that one is
pengorbanan
separated to make in
yang
the
akan
future.
dilakukan di masa depan.
This explains why Renard believes that if we are
Hal
to
ini
imagine the
menjelaskan
nation
mengapa Reno
as good
mendapat bahwa
and worthy of
jika kita
continuous
ingin membayangkan
sacrifice,
bangsa
we
sebagai
must
sesuatu yang baik
realize that it necessarily
dan layak
entails a
untuk
process
pengorbanan
of
kemudian
forgetting.
harus menyadari bahwa hal itu tentu saja
This
melibatkan
is because, for
suatu
Renard,
proses
the
melupakan.
efforts to obtain national unity,
Hal ini disebabkan oleh
either
fakta
in the
bahwa
name of
upaya-upaya
civic
dari
or
pihak
ethnic
luar untuk mencapai
nationalism,
persatuan
involve
nasional baik
acts of
atas nama
violence and
nasionalisme,
subsequent forgetting.
sipil maupun etnis, melibatkan
Based on the initial conception of a nation
tindakan
developed by
kekerasan.
Renard, scholars have come up with a more formal definition of a nation, namely,
Perkembangan
a community of
mendefinisi
people
lebih
formed
formal.
on the basis of a combination of shared features such as language, history, ethnicity, culture, and territory.
Etnis,
Put
budaya, dan
differently,
wilayah.
a nation is the collective
Dengan kata lain,
identity of
bangsa
a
adalah
group of
identitas
people
kolektif
understood as
kelompok
defined
orang
by
yang
language,
dipahami sebagai
history,
sesuatu yang
ethnicity,
ditentukan oleh
culture,
bahasa,
and
sejarah,
territory.
etnisitas, budaya, dan wilayah.
And for this reason, a
Dan
nation
karena
is
alasan
generally
inilah,
more overtly political
bangsa
than an
umumnya
ethnic
lebih bersifat
group.
politis secara
In
terbuka
fact,
daripada
many
kelompok
scholars
etnis.
considered it as a
Bahkan banyak ahli menganggapnya
fully
sebagai kelompok
mobilized
etnis
or
yang telah sepenuhnya
institutionalized ethnic group.
dimobilisasi atau dilembagakan.
Later on, the famous political scientist, Benedict Anderson, views
Selanjutnya,
the
ilmuwan
nation
politik
as an imagined
terkenal
community.
Benedict Anderson memandang bangsa
For
sebagai
Anderson,
komunitas yang
the nation is an
dibayangkan.
imagined
Bagi
political
Anderson,
community
bangsa adalah
that
komunitas
is
politik
culturally
yang dibayangkan
imagined
secara budaya,
as both inherently
dipandang
limited and
sebagai
sovereign.
entitas yang secara
As
inheren
we can
terbatas
see, there are
sekaligus
4 key
berdaulat.
elements in this
Seperti yang
definition.
dapat kita lihat, terdapat 4 unsur utama dalam
First,
definisi
the
ini.
nation is imagined
Pertama,
simply because
bangsa
members of any
dibayangkan
particular nation
semata-mata
will
karena
never meet
anggota dari
most of their
suatu
fellow
bangsa tertentu
members,
tidak akan
yet in the
pernah
minds
bertemu
of
dengan
each
sebagian
lives the
besar
image of their
sama
communion.
anggotanya. Namun dalam
Second, the
benak
nation is
masing-masing
imagined as limited because it has finite,
tetap
yet sometimes
tertanam
elastic,
gambaran tentang kesatuan
boundaries
mereka.
beyond which other nations lie. Third, the nation is imagined
Yang
as
ketiga,
sovereign because the concept of the nation
bangsa
itself was
dipandang
born in an
sebagai
age
entitas yang berdaulat
when the
karena
Enlightenment
konsep bangsa
and
itu
Revolution
sendiri
were
lahir pada
destroying the
masa ketika
legitimacy
pencerahan
of the
dan
divinely
revolusi sedang
ordained
menghancurkan legitimasi kerajaan
hierarchical dynastic realm.
diturunkan oleh Tuhan.
Finally, the nation is imagined as a community because, regardless of the actual inequality and exploitation that may
Akhirnya
prevail
bangsa
within each,
dipandang sebagai sebuah komunitas
the nation
karena
is
terlepas
conceived
dari
as a deep,
ketidaksetaraan
horizontal
dan
comradeship.
eksploitasi yang mungkin terjadi di dalamnya. This is the last video that I want to interpret from YouTube. So let's get started.
For almost a decade, scientists chased the source of a deadly new virus through China's tallest mountains and most isolated caverns. They finally found it here, in the bats of Shitao Cave. The virus in question was a coronavirus that caused an epidemic of severe acute respiratory syndrome, or SARS, in 2003. Coronaviruses are a group of viruses covered in little protein spikes that look like a crown, or corona in Latin. There are hundreds of known coronaviruses. 7 of them infect humans and can cause disease. The coronavirus SARS-CoV causes SARS. MERS-CoV causes MERS, and SARS-CoV-2 causes the disease COVID-19. Of the 7 human coronaviruses, 4 cause colds, mild, highly contagious infections of the nose and throat. 2 infect the lungs and cause much more severe illnesses. The 7th, which causes COVID-19, has features of each. It spreads easily, but can severely impact the lungs. When an infected person coughs, droplets containing the virus spray out. The virus can infect a new person when the droplets enter their nose or mouth. Coronaviruses transmit best in enclosed spaces where people are close together. Cold weather keeps their delicate casing from drying out, enabling the virus to survive for longer between hosts, while UV exposure from sunlight may damage it. These seasonal variations matter more for established viruses. But because no one is yet immune to a new virus, it has so many potential hosts that it doesn't need ideal conditions to spread. In the body, the protein spikes embed in the host cells and fuse with them. enabling the virus to hijack the host cell's machinery to replicate its own genes. Coronaviruses store their genes on RNA. All viruses are either RNA viruses or DNA viruses. RNA viruses tend to be smaller, with fewer genes, meaning they infect many hosts and replicate quickly in those hosts. In general, RNA viruses don't have a proofreading mechanism, whereas DNA viruses do. So when an RNA virus replicates, it's much more likely to have mistakes called mutations. Many of these mutations are useless or even harmful, but some make the virus better suited for certain environments, like a new host species. Epidemics often occur when a virus jumps from animals to humans. This is true of the RNA viruses that cause the Ebola, Zika, and SARS epidemics, and the COVID-19 pandemic. Once in humans, the virus still mutates, usually not enough to create a new virus, but enough to create variations or strains of the original one. Coronaviruses have a few key differences from most RNA viruses. They're some of the largest, meaning they have the most genes. That creates more opportunity for harmful mutations. To counteract this risk, coronaviruses have a unique feature, an enzyme that checks for replication errors and corrects mistakes. This makes coronaviruses much more stable, with a slower mutation rate than other RNA viruses. While this may sound formidable, the slow mutation rate is actually a promising sign when it comes to disarming them. After an infection, our immune systems can recognize germs and destroy them more quickly if they infect us again, so they don't make us sick. But mutations can make a virus less recognizable to our immune systems, and therefore more difficult to fight off. They can also make antiviral drugs and vaccines less effective because they're tailored very specifically to a virus. That's why we need a new flu vaccine every year. The influenza virus mutates so quickly that new strains pop up constantly. The slower mutation rate of coronaviruses means our immune systems, drugs, and vaccines might be able to recognize them for longer after infection, and therefore protect us better. Still, we don't know how long our bodies remain immune to different coronaviruses. There's never been an approved treatment or vaccine for a coronavirus. We haven't focused on treating the ones that cause colds. And though scientists began developing treatments for SARS and MERS, the epidemics ended before those treatments completed clinical trials. As we continue to encroach on other animals' habitats, some scientists say a new coronavirus jumping to humans is inevitable. But if we investigate these unknowns, it doesn't have to be devastating. Students and teachers all over the world did their part to help slow the spread of.
So that's all for me. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.